Joining me now to discuss this is the Ambassador John Bolton. He served as one of President Trump's multiple national security advisors during his first administration. He also served as America's ambassador to the United Nations during the George W. Bush administration. He's the author of multiple books, including The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir, which President Trump cited as the reason to revoke Ambassador Bolton's security clearance. Ambassador, good to see you this morning. Thank you for being with us.
Glad to be with you.
Ambassador, I want to start with this issue about your book, the allegation that you published sensitive information. Just to be clear, when that happens, if that were to happen, if you published a book that had classified information without the approval or the clearance of the federal government and the CIA, they would absolutely have come after you. They've done that with other people. If you publish things you're not supposed to publish that are national secrets, they'll come for you. Tell me about this.
Well, the book went through a 4-month-long pre-publication review, which is typical for books by senior officials in the national security space. And at the end of it, the official who conducted the review had made a decision there was no classified information in the book and that the book could be published. Well, what Trump didn't like was not the classified information point, and you'll notice in that executive order it says sensitive information, not classified information, and it was sensitive because much of it was critical of him. So he tried to order another review to get the outcome he wanted. Now, let me just say, that throws the entire pre-publication review process into grave peril, because if it's manipulated by presidents for political purposes, that does threaten the First Amendment. But the book was cleared. There's no classified information in it. It was never my intent to disclose classified information. And in the almost 5 years now since the book did come out, I haven't heard anybody point to anything in it that was classified. This is Trump reflecting he just doesn't like to be criticized.
Yeah. One of the things that came up in the taking people's security clearances away, I remember having this conversation with the former CIA director, John Brennan. The argument was that you all use your security clearances for personal profit. Brennan made an interesting point to me once, and I want to know what you think about this. He said, I don't really use the security clearance for anything, but when the government needs to consult me about ongoing things, which they sometimes have to, they got to sometimes reach into the past and say, hey, Bolton, you were at the UN when X, Y, or Z happened. We want to talk to you about this. You need your security clearance in order to get the latest information. Talk to me about the relevance and or dangers of revoking security clearances of people who once had them.
Well, I think it's a mistake to revoke clearances for political purposes. In my case, I'm not even sure I have a valid security clearance anymore. I haven't since I've resigned in September of 2019, to my knowledge. I haven't had an update of my background investigation, for example, in 6 or more years. I can't even remember when the last one was. I don't think you need a security classification if you have had a senior role before, if the current administration determines that they want to talk to you. I'll give you an example. Remembering the famous Chinese balloon incident, the Chinese balloon that floated happily across the United States, a number of former Trump administration officials were called in individually to be given briefings on what the government knew about the Chinese balloon question, and I received one of them, and I signed a series of non-disclosure agreements that I wouldn't reveal classified information. That can be done at any time, and in normal administrations, signing that agreement's enough. Your word should be your bond after you've held high-level clearances to get it for a special purpose and then move on.
Talk to me about the reason we actually invited you on the show, and that's specifically about your own personal security. Donald Trump has removed your protection, that of Mike Pompeo and others with whom he disagrees, either politically or with whatever you've done. Talk to me about this decision for you and how it affects future members of government who are going to be forced to make dangerous and personally perilous decisions on an ongoing basis.
Well, the president has the authority to designate Secret Service protection for individuals that he determines who are not necessarily part of the government. So do other agencies of the government. For example, in a case of a former Secretary of State or a current Secretary of State, that's provided by the Diplomatic Security Bureau at the State Department. But in my case, since I had been at the White House, Biden decided to provide Secret Service protection because of the threat level that the intelligence community was picking up from Iran for retaliation for the elimination of Qasem Soleimani, who is a dangerous terrorist responsible over many years for the deaths of hundreds of Americans, obviously ordered by President Trump, and he was at the top of the list of people being threatened. The concern about the threat level, in my case, which maybe was a little more advanced than some others, resulted in criminal charges being filed by the Justice Department against Shahmanpour Safi, an official of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, for trying to hire a hitman to assassinate me. Now, the question of the threat level, and that's on the website of the Justice Department, or at least it used to be, the question of the threat level is something that's reviewed on a continuous basis. And in fact, just in the days before the inauguration, I was informed again that the threat level remained as it has been for several years. And I might say for viewers who don't know this process, neither I nor anybody else assessed as targets of the threat have anything whatever to do, no direction or control or influence at all over the determination of the threat. That's made purely by professionals in the intelligence community.
Ambassador, what you saw when Joe Biden sent that message to the Iranians, say you can't kill Donald Trump and you can't kill any other former or current U.S. officials, that would be an act of war. Do you believe that's true? And what would happen if that happened to you or one of these people who have been targeted? How should the U.S. react?
Well, in the case of everybody, it's not just me, but all of those who have been covered because of the Iranian threat since they left the government. It is the Iranians are after us for actions that were taken as part of our official government duties. Now, I mean, I don't believe anybody's entitled to anything from the government, but if you're going to allow people across the board, really, to be exposed to the seriousness of this threat without protection, it's an incentive for U.S. adversaries to take advantage of it. And so now, having read the news that the coverage has been lifted, there's no question in my mind, but that the actual possibility of them taking action is real. What should the U.S. do in response? The same thing it should do anyway, when Americans serving overseas, serving as in the military, serving in our embassies overseas are attacked, is to take action against those who perpetrated it. It's better, though, to try and deter the adversary from taking action in the first place, which the provision of protection hopefully does.
You and I have talked for years, Ambassador. We always appreciate you agree to come on the show. You and I don't actually agree on a whole lot of policy issues, but that's besides the point. That's the whole exercise of being in media. I do want to ask you, however, because you have a lot of experience in understanding what the Director of National Intelligence has to do. Tulsi Gabbard has her hearings this week. There are some deep and serious concerns. I don't know if they're enough for people for Republicans to vote against her, the advancement of her nomination. What's your sense of whether Tulsi Gabbard is qualified to be the Director of National Intelligence?
Well, she's not qualified in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I thought there were a trio of Trump nominations here that were really in a category by themselves, not just incompetent, but dangerous to the United States. One was Matt Gaetz. He's gone. The remaining two are Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel for the FBI. Not only are they not qualified, they have done things through the course of their career that show they don't have the judgment or the character, frankly, to hold such sensitive positions. I think this is a real danger for the United States in both cases. I think in Tulsi Gabbard's case, she said things and done things that show a lack of judgment that should keep her as far away from classified information as possible.
What's the danger on the Kash Patel side to you? Obviously, the Tulsi Gabbard side's got associations that we haven't cleared up with the former Syrian regime. It's got associations with the Putin regime and has some very strange foreign policy positions. What's your fear about Kash Patel, other than the fact that he's got an enemies list and thinks that the FBI should be used to weaponize against the enemies of the current president?
Well, I had an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal about it, which I'd refer people to for a longer take on it. But I think one of the dangers of many of the Trump nominations is that he's looking to be surrounded by yes men and yes women. He wants people who are going to tell him what he wants to hear and carry out his bidding without any question. There's no doubt the president makes the final decisions, but Trump will find he's not well served if he gets his wish and gets those kind of people. But particularly in a job like director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, this is something as part of a retribution campaign, if that's what Trump is about. It certainly seems that way, that makes it particularly dangerous. And I think it was very instructive that a few weeks ago, former Judge William Webster, who is the only person who's ever been both director of the FBI and director of the CIA, came out strongly against Patel getting that job. I hope people listen to Bill Webster. That's the kind of person with integrity. He came off the federal bench. He was a Republican appointee to the federal bench, but became FBI director under a Democrat. That's the sort of person you want leading the FBI, not Kash Patel.
Ambassador, good to see you again. Thank you for joining us this morning. Former Ambassador John Bolton, former National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration, author of the book, The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir.